Good morning and welcome to this week's IGTV. Today I'm talking about why are you being so annoying, intentionally lazy, and irresponsible and just unmotivated. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you making things so much harder than they need to be? If you would just, things would be so much better. This is literally one of the top things that I hear from parents. And in this video today, I'm going to talk specifically about the mindset that actually is holding you hostage, that has you stuck, that increases conflict, decreases connection, and trashes your communication with your teenager. How you can better understand why your teen is showing up the way they are, not only with the teen brain, but I'm going to address this with some mental health issues as well, and how you can move forward with less resentment. Okay? All right, so I want to apologize for being a little late here. I actually went live on my other Instagram account and totally didn't realize that I was on the wrong account for the first few minutes. So, joke's on me. Okay, if you're watching on Instagram, please hit the follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe. Let's get going. I get messages in my private and my public, actually in my free Facebook community, a free parenting community that I have on Facebook, that you can find if you tap on my name and then the link in my bio, it says community. That's my free parenting community. There are often posts in there from very caring and courageous, loving parents who are so frustrated. And the post goes something like this. I keep asking my teenager to do this. They won't do this. I've tried this, then they still do this. They continue to do X, Y, Z. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. And then the last little paragraph of the post, the little caveat, says, backstory, they are currently dealing with anxiety and depression and recent ADHD diagnosis. They have a therapist and we are working through family counseling or whatever. And in my brain, I'm like, shouldn't that, like, but it would make more sense. Your whole post would make sense if that little backstory, little PS was at the beginning. And this is what I want to address. Okay, so first of all, your teenager isn't doing this to piss you off. And so long as you hold the belief that your teenager is doing what they are doing intentionally, choosing an intellectual choice to oppose you, to be lazy, irresponsible, all those other words that I'm not a fan of, but I understand how that would be your experience. This is never going to get better. It's going to continue to get worse, as a matter of fact. So your assumption and belief, your belief that your teenager is doing this intentionally against you is an issue. That's an issue that comes from a level of insecurity, which I'm putting myself in this boat too, okay? Like the majority of Gen X, Gen Y were raised this way, where if you're not being the way I want you to be, then you must be doing it intentionally against me. It's like we are, because of the way we were raised, which I'm not going to get into that kind of details in a whole lot of other videos, we take things personally. And you will only take things personally if there is a level of insecurity that says, well, if you're not being who I need you to be, there must be something wrong with me, or you must be hating me. You must not like me. You must not love me enough. Maybe I'm not a good enough parent. Maybe like all of the things, like the ball of yarn starts to unravel. That's an issue. That is an insecurity based here from a level of codependence, which if you watch my video a few weeks ago called I'm Not Okay If You're Not Okay, the details are all in there. that because you were probably raised to believe that you were responsible for your parents' feelings, and that some magical reasoning you needed to behave and be a certain way to please your parents, you also now believe as a parent that your teenager needs to do the same thing. That they love you if they please you. They love you if they are compliant. So, little scientific fact, compliance is not respect. Compliance does not equal respect. Compliance is a whole lot of things. Compliance is their own internal motivation, their own choice. It is a reflection of the level of trust and respect in the relationship. It's whether something is important to someone or not. Like, there's a whole lot of things that go into compliance, but respect is not one of them. So, if you are choosing to take this personally and see your teenager's behavior as a direct reflection of their love for you, their value for you, your worthiness as a human, your worthiness as a parent, this is going to go downhill fast. It's not going to work. So let's stop that, okay? This is not personal. The teenage brain is going through the second and final growth phase of the human lifetime. Yes, I said growth. I didn't just say development. No. Their brain is actually growing vast new neural pathways. It's growing new gray matter, physically growing new gray matter. And it's trying to write new software for the new hardware all at the same time. Cirque du Soleil. That's what's going on in there. Okay? It's a busy place. It is a massive construction site that makes them more exhausted. Like, you know, when you've had like a really emotional day and you've been dealing with a lot of stress, you just feel more tired. It's not because physically you may have even gotten off the couch. Maybe you didn't even get out of bed, but you're just tired. That's how your teenager feels. I don't know about you, but when you've had a whole lot going on, you're probably quite focused on all of that which is going on. And when an external force puts more tasks on there, it's easy for them to bounce off because you've already got so much going on. You're like, you know what? I'm just so overwhelmed right now with stuff. I really can't take in like another thing. And you might be saying to yourself, Allie, this really isn't my teenager. They're not overwhelmed. They're literally laying on their bed or on the couch in their bedroom all day long doing nothing. Ain't no overwhelm going on in there. Okay, well, let's just slow down for 1 second. Yes, this will be on my Instagram profile today and on my YouTube channel as well. So your teenager is not doing this to piss you off. And that belief, that insecure belief that says they're doing this just because they don't love me or to hurt me or whatever, that's an issue. It's gonna perpetuate this problem. You're gonna constantly feel resentful and rejected. Probably the sting of rejection first, then resentful. And eventually when resentment builds, it either turns into rage or some form of little microaggressions called retaliation. Happens all the time in relationships. Doesn't make you a bad or evil person, okay? So that's the first thing that I want you to understand. Now, teenagers are expected, they're in a no-win situation because they're expected to be as compliant as children, but as independent as an adult. Like, I see you standing in front of me, you're a full-grown person, you know how to eat, sleep, like put your clothes on, go to the toilet, put food in your mouth. So I want you to be as independent so that you're as helpful as I need you to be and do your own thing, but I want you to do it when I ask you and in the way I want you to. Nah? It's kind of like a lose-lose. Like they're set up to fail every time. Okay, so that's issue number one. You've got your belief that they are doing this intentionally. Okay, that's in the way. I'm telling you that's in the way. And they are showing up the way they're showing up because of their adolescent brain growth, which makes them emotionally reactive, very quickly overwhelmed. They're less organized. They have a hard time. They are a lot more tired. They lack motivation. Their brain's busy, like super busy. Okay. And teenage brains need a ton of downtime. That's why they need so much time alone in their room, and everything takes a lot longer to process because of the massive construction site. Okay. That's number one. The second thing that I want to talk about is relative to this post that I often see parents put in my parenting community. Yes, this will be on my Instagram profile and on YouTube immediately after. Yes. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I'm going to get back to it. Let's talk about mental health. I want to talk about mental health for 1 second. And remember what I said in the beginning is that the posts that I see from parents, this big long explanation of how frustrated they are by their teenager's choices and their teenager's behavior. And then this teeny little paragraph at the bottom that says, backstory, they're struggling with anxiety, depression, have a therapist, and a recent diagnosis with ADHD. And what I'm saying to you is that little paragraph at the bottom needs to be at the top. Rather than taking this personally, seeing this as an intentional choice to piss you off or annoy you and push all your buttons, that little paragraph at the bottom is your work. Your work is to understand anxiety and depression, because when your teen, who is already going through an adolescent brain development, like that's a whole other thing, is now also dealing with a mental health challenge like anxiety or depression, which also amplify overwhelm even more. That's the first thing that you need to understand. Mental health is not a choice. What I mean by that is your teen can't think their way out of it. If they're depressed and you say to them, well, just be happy. Not helpful. There are physiological reasons within the brain that depression occur. I'm not going to go into the detail about the serotonin uptake. Some of it is oxytocin or dopamine. It's very individual per brain. Some of it is situational. Perhaps there's been a tragedy in their life, or a great loss, or some significant relationship shift and change, bullying. All these things can lead to some situational depression rather than the physiological depression. They both feel the same, but one can be self-releasing. The other might need more medical professional or medical attention throughout their lifetime. Let me talk to you about that for a minute. I want you to imagine that this little headphone case here, I don't know what it weighs, maybe like 250 grams. Not a lot, put it that way, okay? So I'm going to hold it out in front of me here. Now, as I'm talking to you, I want you to, if I were to ask you, is this heavy? Like, how much does this even weigh? If you guessed, how much does it weigh? Is it heavy? Like, it's not hard to carry. Okay, well, I've got it out fairly far in front of me, and just now, it's been probably less than a minute or so. I can feel my bicep engaging now because I'm holding this weight at the end of a lever, right? So I'm holding it out here. Now imagine if you were holding that for a week or two. What about a month? Now how heavy is it? Tell me how your arm would feel if you've been holding this at this angle out in front of you for approximately a month, maybe 2. What about a year? Now how heavy is this? That is what anxiety and depression can be like. Anxiety can lead to depression when there has been even the tiniest issue that has not been either addressed. Perhaps your teen has had difficulty expressing it. Maybe they haven't told you at all. This isn't about you being a bad parent. I'm just talking about their mental health. Carrying any load for an extended period of time has a significant impact on the brain. Okay? This can also be depression. Okay? Untreated or uncertain of what to do with it, it can feel heavier and heavier and heavier. And now I can really feel my bicep clicking in, and now we're maybe at 3 minutes tops, and I'm holding something that might weigh like 300 grams top. Like, please, if you are in this place where you feel so resentful toward your teenager because of their lack of compliance, and you know that they are dealing with overwhelm, some depression, anxiety, etc., I need you to see that first. That little caveat paragraph, I need you to see it first. Because what you might see is lazy, ungrateful, entitled, does nothing, is choosing, obviously, not to help, choosing not to do what they're asked, or half-ass everything and it's awful. They're carrying that load. I'm not saying they can't also have healthy habits, basic, simple, healthy habits to take care of their environment, to take care of themselves. But what I am saying is it all feels harder. Because if I'm already carrying this, and maybe I have been for a year, maybe 2, the pandemic had a massive impact on teenagers. And then you put one little task, I dropped that, just 1 minute. If you put one little task on top of that for you is like, first of all, you don't see this and you're not feeling the weight or the exertion that is required to hold this for a long time, and you take one little task and you put it on top, and you're like I just asked you to do this one thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I just need to rest for a minute. And you're like, rest for a minute? You can't do this one task? But you're not seeing what I'm already carrying. Okay? So first, when you can get to the fact that your teenager isn't doing this, it's not about you. This isn't about you. And then if they're dealing with mental health, that weight that they have been carrying, you may see a teenager listless. Again, you might make up stories like lazy, irresponsible, entitled, all those things. What you don't see in their brain, I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan. I'm like kind of a Star Wars fan. My family's huge. My friends are Star Wars fans. What you don't see in their head is the full out Jedi war battle that they're doing every single day. Every single day, they wake up and it's there. And they can't escape it. And they can't figure, they don't have the capacity to necessarily develop healthy strategies from that place. What you see is just like nothing. But what they're doing is fighting the battle alone every day. And even no matter how much you love them or no matter how amazing parent you are, there's little that you can do to get in there and pick up your own lightsaber and help. That's not how it works. This was one of the hardest things of watching my son fight his brain fight him. Literally watching his own brain attack the beautiful, gorgeous person that I knew was in there every single day. He had to wake up, pick up that lightsaber, and start fighting. And he was fighting it alone, and I used to stand there in front of him, and we look at his face, so troubled, and just be like, God, I would do anything to get in your brain and pick up a lightsaber and help you. And I can't. But what I can do is have some compassion, awareness, and understanding for the everyday battle that you are going through when I am asking you to perform activities, tasks around the house, and why you might struggle with those. Your teenager is fighting the battle alone. There is continually more and more people coming to like fight, and it's just them with their lightsaber. And every now and then they also need to rest. Like, it's exhausting. I have had 3 times in my life with situational depression, and I can tell you it's exhausting. Exhausting. So here's my last point about this with anxiety and ADHD is that if you don't put what's going on for them first, and you think that little mental health thing that's going on for them is like a little caveat somehow at the bottom of the post, of the page, like, oh yeah, and by the way, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's the first and foremost. If you saw someone with a broken leg, you probably wouldn't ask them to do a bunch of chores that involve them walking around. You might give them, like, bring them stuff, say, hey, could you like shuck these peas? Can you like knit this thing for me? Things they could do sitting down, right? You don't see what's going on in here. Not only are you not seeing the normal and explosive adolescent brain growth, that's already like normal, then there's mental health and neurodivergence on top of that. So it's a bit like having a sprained brain or a bruised brain. Like, I'm just using that as a metaphor, a sprained brain. And yet you're expecting your teenager to have adult level intellectual function, which they don't. And you want them to have childlike compliance, which they don't. Do you see how this is your thinking that can perpetuate this problem? And again, I'm not saying that a teenager needs to lay around all day, play video games, watch all TV all day. I'm not saying that. But here's the last thing I am going to say. When it comes to managing their mental health, if they already have anxiety and depression, etc., and they have a therapist, that's all good. If your teenager is struggling with those things as well, they have the capability to create, to execute healthy strategies for living. They do not have the capacity to execute on the capability. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yes, they're perhaps full grown. Maybe they look down on you. Maybe your young son like already has a mustache and a beard. Like your daughter's already fully developed, and you're like, seriously, what is your problem? If the therapist says these are the things you need to do, or you've got to get outside and blah blah blah, and you're like preaching and lecturing about how they need to take care of themselves, let alone do the things that you're asking, you are adding to that battle that's going on in there. So even though your teenager may have the physical capacity, when someone is drowning, like imagine they're drowning off the edge of a boat, okay? What do you think is more helpful? Yelling at them and telling them how to swim, okay? Like, just kick your legs, just, you know, like move your arms and it'll get your head above the water. Do you think if I yell from the boat how to swim, is that more helpful? Or throwing like the PFD? Just whatever it takes for them to get air and to pause, to take a break. Which do you think is more helpful? Type it in the comments. Yelling instructions how to swim or throwing them a lifesaver? This is exactly the metaphor that goes on with parents and teens all day long, specifically if there's mental health. What your teenager needs is to get their lips above the water so they can lower their stress response. Yes, thank you, the lifesaver. So they can lower their stress response enough, just enough, okay, to take a breath, take a break. Then they might be open to some of your instructions on how to swim. Does that make sense? So if your teenager is struggling with mental health, And even if they're just having a regular teenage brain renovation moment, what they need is, because teenage brains are almost always in a mild state of fight or flight, which puts their brain in a mild stress response all the time. That's why they're so emotionally reactive. So what they need from you is that compassion, awareness, and understanding so that you don't take it personally. Because the moment you take it personally, you feel rejected, you go to resentment, and then resentment builds to rage and anger and even retaliation. So your thinking is making this, so if you are like, okay, this isn't about me, I'm a good person, I'm a good parent, my teenager's behavior does not validate me as a person, I'm already a good person. I am whole, complete, and amazing just the way that I am. And my teenager might need to take a little bit of a break to put their toe on the edge of the pool, on a step, a PFD first. Then they might need some help to execute something, specifically if they're dealing with ADHD, anxiety, or depression. You ask your teenager to clean your room. If you ask a depressed, anxious, or ADHD teenager to clean their room, I promise you it won't get done. It won't get done. Because their brain, their body has the capacity. That's all you're seeing. Their brain does not have, their body has the capability. That's what I meant to say. Their body has the capability to do this. But when you don't see anything past that, you're adding to the battle. Their brain doesn't have the capacity to look at their room and actually clean it up. So I'm going to post a video today on 6 ways to help your teen clean their room. You have to break it down for them, particularly with a struggling brain. It's all in that video, so I'm not going to go over it. But normal instructions that you would give to an adult are generally unfair when you give them to a teen anyway, because they don't have adult level processing. They don't have critical analysis, decision making, impulse control, emotional regulation. They don't have that. It's a hot mess in there on a good day. So unless it's something they already know, like when we were teaching our teenagers to clean their room, or our kids when they were younger, I would do it with them, not for them. Are you clear? Not for them. I would do it with them. A teenager with depression or anxiety may need the same level of care. You may need to do the exercise with them to say, let's just start small. Let's just do a little bit today. You can either pick one area. You could, it's called touch 10. You can just touch 10 different objects. You can just do like the plates and dishes, just one thing. Just make it super tiny. Because otherwise, if it's big with anxiety and depression or ADHD, their limitation before their brain goes into red line, which means it's triggered a stress response of anxiety, getting it right. They don't know how to do it. What does she mean? How does she want that done? Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. I don't know. And all the things. If you trip that, nothing gets done. But if you do tiny little baby steps that fit under that and you don't trip it, that's how you build the compassion and support and help them build confidence. So if you do one thing at a time, just little tiny baby steps, you don't trip that. And if they have anxiety or depression, that's going to trip even faster into overwhelm. So I hope this has been helpful today for you in how you're thinking and the moment that you believe your teenager is doing what they're doing because it's about you, think that's it. You're going to have more conflict, more disconnection, not very fun communication, and it'll erode your relationship. If it's an issue, then you work on that. The insecurity where you were raised to believe that their behavior and everything they're doing is a reflection of your worth and your value. That's bullshit. Can we just stop that now? Okay? Your teenager does not have adult level processing capability, and they will not have child level compliance. So stop that too. Your teenager's brain is a Star Wars movie. It's a massive skyscraper construction zone, like on a normal day. And the minute you add any other mental health or neurodivergence, you have a Star Wars battle going on in the construction zone. Can you just imagine that for one sec? Okay? Break it down. Stop pretending that the problem is them, and then the caveat is, oh yeah, they also have these things. No. That's first and foremost. That goes at the top. And it sounds like this. I don't understand anxiety and depression. I'm not understanding this. What work can I do to better understand how their brain works? Rather than, they're doing this to piss me off. They must not love me. I'm not a good parent. If I don't raise a good child, then I'm nothing. Let's let that go. All right? If you would like more support with this, absolutely join me in my free parenting community. If you tap on my name here on Instagram and then the link in my bio, there's a round button that says community. That is the instant link to my free parenting community on Facebook. In September, I have my 5-day challenge coming up, which I know many of you have taken, and I would love to have you if you haven't. I go over 5 different ways to improve your relationship with your teen and cover 5 different topics in 5 different nights, and including things like this to help you instantly improve your relationship with your teenager. If you're not already in my tribe, where I send out weekly emails like this with the problem, the science behind it, and the exact set steps and scripts that you can take to turn this thing around, then you're going to want to get on that. So go on my website or here on Instagram. If you tap on the link in my bio on Instagram and you hit contact or email, just fill it in and say, I want to be in the tribe. Sign me up. And you'll get them. If you're here on or on my website, you can go to alipayne.com and hit contact. Fill in the information. You will be getting that. You don't need to wait until September to have a better relationship with your teen. All of my content here on Instagram, on YouTube, and on my website, it's all free. Under Ali Payne, under the blog, it's all free. There's a new one every single week. I want to help you. I believe in you. You deserve to feel calmer, more confident, and more connected with your teen. And I'm going to tell you what, based on the DMs I get from teens every day, that's what your teen wants as well. This stuff is hard, and nobody is talking about this kind of information, so it leaves us in a bit of a lurch, at our wits' end, and feeling hopeless, heartbroken, and frustrated. And I don't believe that parenting teens needs to be that way. So join me. I'm here on Instagram every Thursday at 11 a.m. or around there. Every Wednesday, I'm on TikTok live at 2 p.m. My TikTok is at Ali Payne, and my YouTube channel is also Ali Payne. Or again, you can check out my website, alipayne.com, ALYPAIN. Thanks so much. Hit the follow or the subscribe, and I will see you again next week. Bye, everybody.